My wife's shocking betrayal. How she used an affair to get revenge for one weekend gone wrong. Hey, I'm Tom, and I'm 34. For most of my life, I thought my marriage was great. Me and my wife, Jess, have been together 10 years, and life's been pretty good. We've had our ups and downs like everyone, but I think we get each other and we love each other no matter what. But then a few weeks ago, something happened that totally rocked my world. It was a normal Wednesday. I got home from work early after a long day, and Jess wasn't there. That wasn't strange. She's often worked late. At first, I didn't worry. I figured she'd come home soon. So I dropped my bag on the couch, grabbed a beer, and turned on some mindless TV to chill. Then my phone started buzzing. It was a text from my buddy Mike. He sent me a pic that I'll never forget. In the pic, Jessica was at a restaurant, holding hands and giggling with some other guy. My heart dropped when I saw it. First, I didn't want to believe what I was seeing. I tried telling myself there had to be another explanation. Maybe it was just a friendly thing, or maybe the lighting was playing tricks. But deep down, I knew the truth. Something had been off between Jessica and I for weeks. I'd been ignoring it. I spent that night in a haze, trying to process what I'd seen. When Jess finally came home late that night, acting like nothing was up, I just couldn't confront her then. My brain was spinning. Maybe I had misunderstood, maybe I was paranoid, maybe there was another reason for the picture. I tried sleeping, but Jessica's face with that other guy kept playing on repeat in my head. The next few days were tough. Every time I saw her, all I could think about was that picture. I finally couldn't take it anymore. So on Sunday morning, I just blurted it out. I showed her that picture and expected her to deny or say it was all a big misunderstanding. But nope. She just looked at me with this unreadable face. "Who's the guy, Jess?" I said, my voice all shaky with anger and pain. She sighed and ran her hand through her hair. "His name's Eric," she replied softly. It was like I got punched in the gut. She wasn't even gonna deny it. My brain was racing as I tried to figure out what the heck was going on. "Why?" I asked her. Then she said this thing that I'll never forget. "Because of how you ruined our anniversary weekend, Tom." She crossed her arms and her eyes were icy. 3 months ago on our anniversary, you promised we'd spend the whole weekend together. What did you do, though? You canceled our plans and went to some work conference instead. Do you know how much that hurt me? I remember now about that conference. It was a big opportunity, and I didn't realize it was such a big deal back then. So I thought we could celebrate later, but it meant the world to you. Are you saying you cheated because of that conference? I couldn't believe it. She didn't even flinch. Yes, Tom. I needed you to know what it feels like to be let down by someone you trust. I wanted you to experience the pain of betrayal. I was totally lost for words. How could she even compare those two things? A ruined weekend was nothing compared to what she did. My mind raced, trying to understand how my wife could have cheated on me, not because we were falling out of love or had some long-term issue in our marriage, but over something I had messed up months ago. Do you really think this is the same thing? I asked finally, my voice getting louder. You really think missing a weekend equals cheating on me with another guy? Jessica's face got harder. That wasn't just any weekend, it was our anniversary, supposed to be special, and you ruined it like it didn't mean anything to you. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How had everything gone so wrong? My head was full of questions, but one thing was clear. The woman I thought I knew had anger and resentment that had exploded in the worst way possible. I just couldn't handle it anymore. That day, I left the house, needing some time and space to clear my head. The weight of her betrayal felt like it was following me everywhere I went, and I just wasn't ready to face the truth yet. How had something so small and insignificant caused such a mess in my life anyway? I didn't head home that night. After what Jessica did, the thought of sleeping beside her made me feel sick. So I crashed at Mike's house instead. He wasn't asking any questions, he just handed me a beer and told me to make myself comfortable. I wasn't in the mood to talk about it yet. I needed time to process everything. The next day, reality started to hit me. What do I do now? How can I move on after what happened? I always thought if someone cheated on me, there'd be no second chance. No talks, just a breakup. But after it happened, I wasn't so sure what to do. We had a life together, a mortgage, friends, history. Can I really throw it all away over one mistake? Was it really a mistake, though? Mike could tell I was struggling, so he finally asked if I wanted to talk. I nodded, and the words felt heavy as they came out. Jessica cheated on me. Mike's face got all tight as he sat across from me. Man, I'm sorry to hear about that. When did you find out? Yesterday, I said, taking a deep breath to try and calm down. She told me she cheated because She was mad at me for missing the anniversary weekend. Mike looked at me like he couldn't believe it. Wait, what? She cheated over a weekend? I ran my hands through my hair, frustrated. I know it's crazy, but I just don't know what to do. I think I can't forgive her, but at the same time, I don't want to break up over this. Look, man, I can't tell you what to do, Mike said. Cheating is a huge deal that's hard to get past. You gotta decide if you can handle it or not. I didn't reply. I knew he was right, but there was something else Mike didn't know and nobody else knew, and that was that it wasn't just about the cheating. It was how cold and calculated Jessica was about it. It wasn't a one-night mistake. She'd planned it for months, let it fester inside her, until she decided that the only way for me to feel the pain she'd felt was for me to experience it too. I stayed at Mike's for a couple of days, trying to work through my feelings, trying to approach the situation rationally and think things through before making any big decisions. But every time I tried, my mind just spiraled. I kept seeing Jess with Eric, laughing like nothing had happened, and I just couldn't shake the image from my head. In the end, I realized there was no point in avoiding the situation forever. So I decided to head home. When I walked in, Jess was sitting on the couch, waiting for me. Man, she looked tired. Like she hadn't slept since I left, maybe. Good. Maybe she felt a little of the pain I'd been feeling. Tom, she said when she saw me. Her voice was full of emotion. We need to talk. I didn't want to, but she was right. We couldn't run from the problem anymore. So we sat across from each other. The distance between us felt like miles. There was a long, uncomfortable silence. Then she broke down. Sorry, she said. I'm so sorry, Tom. I know I hurt you. I wasn't thinking clearly. I just don't know anymore. Her words should have brought some comfort. But instead they just made me even more angry. You think you weren't clear in your head? Is that what you're saying? Jess, you've been planning this for months. It wasn't some spur-of-the-moment thing. You knew what you were doing all along. I know, she said, her eyes filling with tears. I know it was a mistake. My anger got the best of me. I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm sorry. I wanted to yell at her, tell her how frustrated I'd been since I found out. But I didn't. I just sat there numb. Why didn't we talk about it? I asked softly. If something was bothering you about that weekend, why didn't you tell me how you were feeling? Jess wiped her tears away, looking ashamed. I don't know. Maybe. I thought you'd think it wasn't that big a deal, and that hurt me because it did seem like you didn't care. That's not true, I said, trying to sound firm. You know it's not. You didn't even give me a chance to understand what happened. You went and slept with someone behind my back, just to hurt me. She didn't respond, which told me all I needed to know. This wasn't about fixing things. It was about revenge. I can't deal with this right now, I continued, getting up from the table. I need some time to think. Jessica didn't stop me as I walked out of the room. I had no idea where I was going or what I was going to do next, but I knew one thing for sure. Our marriage was over and I didn't see any chance of fixing it. I didn't get far after I left the house. I just drove around aimlessly for hours, trying to get my head straight. But all I could think about was Jessica's betrayal and how cold she was about it. I didn't know if I could ever forgive her. Finally, I ended up at an empty parking lot by the beach, just staring at the ocean. Should I forgive her? Could our relationship ever be the same after what she did? Or was it all over? It wasn't just the affair that was bothering me. It was the idea that she thought she had a right to hurt me so much because of something from months ago. That seemed so petty and cruel. I needed some clarity, so I called my sister for advice. She's always been there for me, and she knows me better than anyone. Maybe she could help me see things more clearly. Amy and I have always had a close relationship. She's a few years older than me, and she's always been the go-to person for advice when I need it. When I gave her a call, I could tell from her tone that something was up. Tom, what's wrong? I hesitated, unsure how to start. It's about Jessica. She cheated on me, I said. There was silence for a moment before Amy spoke again. Jessica? Seriously? Her voice sounded incredulous. Yeah, I found out a few days ago, I confirmed. My heart broke, and it feels like everything's crumbling around me. Amy muttered a curse under her breath. That's crazy. I can't believe she'd do that. Amy asked if I was okay. No, not really, I replied. I have no idea what to do. I mean, I don't know if I can forgive her, but at the same time, we've been together for so long, and I'm not sure if I want to just throw it all away. Amy paused for a second, and I could tell she was thinking hard. Listen, Tom, you don't need to decide right now, but hear me out. What she did was wrong. Doesn't matter what you decide to do, she had no business doing that behind your back. You deserve better than that. Her words hit me hard. I'd been so focused on trying to save the relationship, I hadn't stopped to think about what I wanted. Do I want to be with someone who can be so mean and calculating? I know, but it's complicated, I said. Amy sighed. People change, Tom. They show us sides of themselves we never expect. But you have to ask yourself, can you trust her again? If you can't get past this, then there's no point dragging it out. That was the big question, right? Could I ever really trust her again? I mean, even if she apologizes and swears it won't happen again, who knows? Every time she comes home late, every time I see her smiling at her phone, those doubts creep back into my head. I didn't know what to do about it. I just don't know, Amy. I really don't, I said to her. She was so understanding. Just take your time. You don't have to rush into anything, she told me. We talked for a while longer, and when we hung up, I felt a little bit lighter. Still not sure what to do, but at least the pressure was off me for now. Over the next few days, I kept my distance from Jess. Went to Mike's place again, and when not working, hit the gym. Ran and lifted until my body was sore and my mind was numb. It was my way of coping, my way to dull the pain. Jess texted a few times, asking when I'd be home, but I didn't respond. Not ready to face her yet, and didn't want to have that tough talk just yet. Then one evening, out of nowhere, I got a call from some random number. When I picked up, it was Eric's voice on the other line. My heart dropped. I'd never talked to him before, but the way he sounded made everything feel more real. Tom, it's me, Eric. We need to talk, he said. I held the phone tight. What do you want? I hate you, I said, and you don't have to explain. You did enough. Eric pleaded, just hear me out, please. I didn't know she was married. She said she was single when we started seeing each other. It wasn't until later that I found out she had a husband. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. What? She never mentioned her husband when we talked. She acted like a free agent. How could she lie to both of us? I wanted to hang up and yell at him, but something made me pause. Could he be telling the truth? Had Jessica been lying to both of us? I'm not trying to make excuses for what I did, Eric continued, but what I did was wrong, and I'm really sorry about it. And let me tell you, she wasn't being honest with me either. My heart was racing, and I felt like I was going to burst out of my skin. Why are you even telling me this? I asked. Because you deserve to know the truth, man. I'm so sorry. I really am. I never would have done what I did if I'd known. I didn't know what to say. My brain was spinning, trying to process everything. Jessica had lied not only to me, but to Eric too. What a tangled web of lies she'd spun. Why? To hurt me? To get back at me over something so small? Eric ended the call after a few awkward moments, leaving me standing there, phone still in my hand. I felt like the world had just fallen out from under me. Jessica's betrayal went deeper than I'd realized, and it was more complicated than anything I could have imagined. I had no idea what to do next. How could I ever recover from this? Eric's call really messed me up for days. I was trying to figure out what Jessica was doing, thinking I had it all figured out, but then it hit me I was wrong. She not only cheated on me, but she was lying about everything. I felt so stupid for believing her. How could she do that? After the call, I sat in my car for hours, trying to decide what to do. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't want to face her yet. I needed time to process everything. Finally, after hours of thinking, I decided to go home. When I got there, Jess was sitting in the kitchen with a cup of coffee. She looked lost, like she didn't know what to say. I walked into the room, and she didn't look up. I just said, we need to talk, and she nodded. We sat there for a long time, talking about everything that had happened. It was hard, but we needed to be honest with each other. In the end, we decided to work through it and try again. Hey, I was just talking to Eric, I said, breaking the silence. She looked up at me, her face pale. You were talking to him? What did you talk about? Yeah, we talked. And he filled me in on everything, I replied. Apparently you lied about being single. Jess' face fell, and she covered her eyes with her hands. Tom, I'm so sorry. I really am. I didn't mean to hurt anybody. I didn't want to hear excuses. Jess, what were you thinking? Why didn't you just tell me the truth from the start? And why were you hiding your relationship with Eric anyway? She looked at me, tears in her eyes. I don't know, Tom. I just wasn't thinking straight. I wanted to cause a bit of drama, but I didn't intend to hurt Eric or anybody else. Her words kept echoing in my head, but they just seemed so empty. I had heard those same excuses before. She had manipulated and hurt me, and someone else too. You keep saying that you didn't mean what you did, that it was just a mistake, I said, feeling my anger starting to rise. You had so many months to think about it, Jess. Why didn't you just talk to me back then? Why couldn't we just sort things out like adults? She was crying now, her head shaking. I know that I messed up, Tom. I know I can't really blame you for not wanting to forgive me. But please, let me try to explain. I crossed my arms and leaned against the counter, waiting for her to continue. I wasn't sure if I really wanted to hear her explanation, but I knew I needed to hear it. I needed to understand why we were so far apart. Man, I was so bummed out after that weekend, she started, her voice shaking. I had been planning for months for our anniversary getaway. I thought it would be a great trip just for the two of us to celebrate 10 years together. But then, you canceled like it wasn't a big deal at all. I felt like I didn't matter anymore. So when Eric paid some attention to me at work, it kind of felt nice. I didn't mean it to go that far, though. I gritted my teeth as my patience ran thin. You didn't plan it, Jess. You were the one who planned the whole thing. You cheated and lied because you got mad about one stupid weekend. I know, she said, her voice trembling. I reacted badly. My anger took over. If you could feel how I felt, maybe you would understand. But now, I see how wrong I was. Her words were weak and unconvincing, like she was trying to rationalize something that couldn't be rationalized. I just looked at her, trying to figure out the woman I loved for a decade, and the person sitting in front of me, broken and lost. But why'd you lie to Eric? I asked again, the question that had been bugging me since Eric called. If it was about getting back at me, why bring him into it? Why not tell him the truth? She paused, wiping away her tears, and I wasn't sure what to make of it. I thought maybe she was just playing games, but then she wasn't. And before I knew it, it was too late, because I'd already told Eric I was married. Way too far. That's all she could say. It was an accident. It's not my fault. It just happened, like she'd gotten caught up in something she couldn't escape. So what do we do now? My voice softer, I asked. Where do we go from here? Jessica was staring at me with wide eyes, full of fear. Tom, I don't want to lose you. I know I messed up, and I'm so sorry. I swear I'll be better. I'll go to counseling, quit my job, anything. Just please don't leave me. She looked so desperate, and for once I could see how guilty she felt. But that still didn't change the fact that she broke my trust. Could I ever look at her the same way again? Could I forgive her? I just need some time to think, I said, exhausted. Just give me some space, okay? She nodded, trying to hold back her tears. Sure, take all the time you need. I'll wait. I didn't say any more. Instead, I just turned and walked out of the kitchen, feeling numb. I didn't know what the future would bring, but I knew one thing. Things were never going to be the same. Days turned into weeks, and I was trying to avoid home as much as I could, spending time with Mike and not answering Jessica's calls. I was burying myself in work, trying to distract myself from all the pain and hurt that was hanging over my head like a dark cloud. Time just kept on going, and eventually I realized that I needed to make a choice. Either I was going to try and save my marriage, or I was going to leave for good. I wasn't sure what I wanted, but I knew staying in limbo was no longer an option. After avoiding Jessica for about a month, I decided to go home one day. I had no idea what to say, but I knew I needed to face her and be honest with her. When I got there, the house was still the same. The lawn was freshly cut, and the flowers she planted in spring were still in full bloom by the porch. On the outside, it was a peaceful scene, but on the inside, everything felt chaotic and broken. I walked in and was hit by the familiar scent of home. For a second, I remembered all the good times we had there. Sunday mornings with coffee and the paper, movie nights on the couch, decorating the Christmas tree every December. But it all seemed so far away now. Overwhelmed, Jessica sat down on the couch with tired eyes. Tom, she said, I'm so glad you're here. I missed you. I nodded, feeling awkward. Yeah, me too. She swallowed hard. Can we talk? Sure, I replied. We sat across from each other, our hands fidgeting on our laps, trying to figure out what to say. Now that it was finally time, I wasn't sure where to start. Jess, I started slowly. I've spent a lot of time thinking about everything, about us. She nodded, her eyes welling up with tears, but she let me continue. I thought about what you said, about how you felt hurt, and that weekend made you think I didn't care. I get that, I get why you felt that way. But how you handled it, the lying, the cheating, the trying to get back at me, I just can't forgive that. Jess' face crumpled, and she buried her head in her hands. I know, Tom. I know I screwed up. I'll always regret what I did. In a calm but firm voice I said, I understand that you're sorry, but apologies don't fix what happened. They can't take back the pain or fix the trust that's broken. I'm still trying to figure out if I can forgive you, if I can move past this. The truth is, though, I just don't know yet. Her sobs got louder, but I kept going, trying to stay strong. I can't keep living in fear that you're going to hurt me, I said. Every time we fight, or things don't go your way, I'm always wondering if it's going to happen again. Jessica looked at me with tears streaming down her face. Tom, please, I'd do anything. Let's go to therapy. I'll change. I swear I won't ever hurt you again. Don't leave me. Her desperation touched my heart, and for a second, I wanted to believe her. But deep down, I knew the damage was too big. When trust is broken, it doesn't always come back. I don't want to cause you pain, I said more softly, but I need to be honest. I don't think we can keep going like this. Too much has happened. We've gone past the point of no return. Her eyes searched my face for any sign that I might change my mind. I had given up hope, though, and finally said, I think it's best if we end this. My words were heavy, and I continued, we need to move on. Jessica's sobs quieted, and she slowly nodded. A look of sadness passed over her face as she whispered, I understand. I wish things were different, but I understand. After that, we just sat there in silence for a while. No more words needed to be spoken. We both knew where we had to go, even if it was hard. The next few weeks were filled with tough conversations about splitting our lives and figuring out what our futures would be without each other. It was tough, and sometimes I questioned my decision. Loneliness and sadness hit me hard. But deep down, I knew it was the right thing. Our marriage couldn't be fixed, and holding on to it out of fear or obligation would only make things worse. Eventually, Jessica and I split up amicably. No screaming or arguing, we just accepted that it was over. It was a painful process, but it had to be done. Months later, when I was adjusting to my new life, I found myself back at the beach, where it all started. The waves were still crashing, reminding me that life goes on no matter how tough it seems. I lost some things, but I also gained a sense of clarity and worth. Sometimes you have to let go for your own good, even if it hurts. That's what happened to me, and it was the right thing to do. If you like such stories, then be sure to subscribe to the channel. It will be the biggest support for me.